I'd been working contract jobs up north for about 6 months when my company sent me out to this tiny village in Derbyshire. Proper middle of nowhere, yeah? The kind of place where the pub closes at 8:30 and everyone knows everyone. I needed digs for the week, so I went on Airbnb and found this little cottage listed for dead cheap. The photos looked mint, all cosy and rustic, wooden beams, the works. The host was a woman called Linda, 5-star reviews, been hosting for years apparently. Seems sound. I arrived just as it was getting dark. Linda met me at the door, this older woman, maybe late 60s, with this massive smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, you know what I mean? She was proper chatty, asking loads of questions about where I was from, what I did for work, whether I lived alone. At the time, I just thought she was being friendly, bit lonely maybe. She showed me around the place, kitchen, bathroom, bedroom upstairs, and then we got to this door at the end of the hallway, painted white, brass handle, nothing special about it, but she stopped dead in front of it. "That's just storage, love," she said, still smiling. "I keep it locked. You won't need to go in there." Fair enough, I thought. Her gaff, her rules. She handed me the keys, told me to make myself at home, and then she left. Said she lived just down the lane if I needed anything. I dumped my bags, ordered a takeaway, and settled in for the night. The place was quiet. Too quiet, if I'm honest. No traffic, no neighbours, just the wind rattling the windows. I'm a city lad, so it felt a bit off, but I was knackered from the drive and passed out pretty quick. First night, nothing weird happened. Second night, though, that's when it started. I woke up around 3 in the morning, absolutely gasping for a drink, stumbled out to the hallway, half asleep, and that's when I heard it. This faint scratching sound like nails on wood. It was coming from that locked door. I stood there in the dark, listening, and I swear I heard whispering. Couldn't make out words, just this low murmur like someone talking to themselves. I told myself it was pipes or the wind, maybe an animal in the walls. Old houses make weird noises, yeah? I went back to bed, but I barely slept. Third night, I made sure to stay up a bit later, had a few beers to calm my nerves. I kept glancing down the hallway at that door. Around midnight, I crashed. But I woke again, same time, 3 in the morning, and this time the scratching was louder. I got up, crept down the hallway, and my stomach just dropped. The door was open. Not wide open, just a crack, maybe a few inches. I know for a fact it had been shut when I went to bed. I stood there, heart absolutely pounding, trying to decide whether to look inside or just leg it back to my room. Curiosity got the better of me. I pushed the door open slowly, reached round for a light switch. The bulb flickered on, dim and yellow, and I saw it wasn't storage at all. It was a tiny room, no windows, just walls covered in photographs, Polaroids, dozens of them, all pinned up with drawing pins. My blood went cold. There were pictures of people sleeping. Different people, different rooms, but all taken from the same angle, standing over the bed looking down. Some of the people looked peaceful, some looked like they were having nightmares, mouths open, faces twisted. And then I saw it. Bottom row, far right, a photo of me, in the bed, upstairs, taken last night. I felt sick, physically sick. I staggered back, knocking into the door frame, and that's when I noticed something else. There was a chair in the corner, and on it was a camera, a proper old Polaroid camera, and next to it, a notebook. I didn't want to look, but I had to. I flipped it open. Pages and pages of names, dates, notes. Daniel, arrived Monday, sleeps heavy, doesn't lock bedroom door. Me name, me details. I slammed the book shut and sprinted back to my room. I grabbed my stuff, didn't even pack properly, just shoved everything into my bag. I tried ringing Linda. No answer. Tried the number again. Went straight to voicemail. I got in my motor and drove. Didn't stop until I was back in town, pulled into her services, hands still shaking. I reported it to the police the next morning, told them everything. They said they'd send someone round to check it out. I waited for a call back, but when they finally rang, the officer sounded confused. He said they'd been to the address, but the property had been empty for years. No furniture, no photos, nothing. And there was no record of a Linda ever living there. I pulled up the Airbnb listing on my phone to show him proof. It was gone, completely deleted, no trace of it. I checked my emails. The booking confirmation was gone too, like it never existed. I still think about those photos. How many people had stayed there before me? How many nights had she stood over them while they slept? And what was she planning to do with me? My boyfriend Tom and I had been together for about 2 years and things had been a bit rocky, yeah? We both worked mental hours, barely saw each other during the week, so we decided to book a weekend away. Nothing fancy, just needed to reconnect, have a proper laugh like we used to. I found this gorgeous apartment in Brighton on Airbnb, all modern, minimalist, massive windows overlooking the sea. The photos looked absolutely stunning and the reviews were brilliant, 5 stars across the board. Host was called Marcus, seemed professional enough in his messages. We booked it straight away. We arrived Friday evening and honestly it was even better than the pictures. Everything was spotless, really tastefully decorated, all white walls and those trendy industrial touches. But the first thing I noticed was the mirrors. There were loads of them, massive ones on nearly every wall, floor to ceiling in the bedroom, another huge one in the lounge. Tom joked that Marcus must be proper vain. We laughed it off, cracked open some wine, and just enjoyed being together without the stress of everyday life. Saturday morning, I woke up early and went to the bathroom. I was standing at the sink, brushing my teeth, when I heard it. This really faint humming sound, almost like a vibration. I thought maybe it was the heating or the pipes, but when I stepped back, it stopped. I moved closer to the mirror again and there it was. I put my ear right up against the glass and it was definitely coming from behind it. Steady, electronic, like something was running. I didn't think too much of it at first. Old building, dodgy electrics, whatever. But then I noticed it in the bedroom mirror too. Same sound. I called Tom over and he heard it as well. He's more practical than me, so he started knocking on the wall around the mirror, listening for hollow spots. And he found one. Right at the edge of the frame, there was this tiny gap where the mirror didn't quite sit flush with the wall. He got his fingers behind it and gave it a tug. The whole panel just popped off, still attached by these little magnetic strips. My stomach dropped. Behind the mirror was a small rectangular space, maybe 6 inches deep, and inside it was this little black camera. Tiny thing, lens pointing straight out into the room. And there were wires, loads of them running down through the wall. I felt like I was going to be sick. Tom's face went absolutely white. We just stood there staring at it, not saying anything, because what do you even say? We checked the other mirrors, every single one at the same setup. Cameras behind them all, bedroom, bathroom, lounge, everywhere. I wanted to leave right then, but Tom said we needed to confront Marcus first, get some answers. We rang him and he picked up after a few rings, all cheerful and friendly. Tom put him on speaker and told him what we'd found. There was this pause, just silence on the line, and then Marcus laughed, actually laughed. He said he had no idea what we were talking about, that he'd never noticed anything like that before and maybe the previous tenants had installed them for security or something. Security? In the bathroom? Tom started shouting at him, calling him a creep, threatening to call the police. Marcus just hung up. We packed our stuff and got out of there immediately. I reported it to Airbnb and they said they'd investigate, but I never heard back. The listing stayed up for weeks. I kept checking it and the reviews were still glowing. All these people saying how wonderful the place was, how kind and respectful Marcus was. But then I started noticing something really weird. Some of the reviewers had profile pictures that looked familiar. I clicked on one and my blood ran cold. It was a photo of me. Not exactly the same, but definitely taken from one of my social media accounts. I checked another review. Same thing, different names, but pictures of me or pictures that have been edited to look like different people. There are at least 6 fake accounts, all leaving 5-star reviews for Marcus's property. I reported it again, tried to get Airbnb to take it seriously, but they just sent me some generic email about community guidelines. Tom said I was getting paranoid that maybe it was a coincidence, but I knew what I'd seen. I couldn't sleep properly for days. Every time I looked at a mirror, I felt like someone was watching me. I started covering the mirrors in my own flat with towels. Then, about 3 weeks later, I got an email. The address was just random letters and numbers, no name attached. The subject line said, "Beautiful Guests 2023. I should have deleted it straight away, but I opened it. There was no message, just a video file. I don't know why I clicked it. I think part of me needed to know. It was footage from the apartment. Black and white, grainy,
but clear enough. Me and Tom in the bedroom getting changed, talking, laughing. Me in the bathroom wrapped in a towel. Us in the lounge curled up on the sofa watching telly. Hours and hours of footage, all edited together. And at the end, there was text on a black screen. It just said, "Come back soon." I went to the police after that. They took a statement, said they'd look into it, but I've heard nothing since. The Airbnb listing finally got taken down, but I reckon Marcus has just put it back up under a different name. And sometimes, late at night, I get emails from accounts I don't recognise. No words, no attachments, just empty emails with the subject line, "We see you." I don't look at mirrors the same way anymore.
I've always been a bit of a drifter, yeah? Never really settled anywhere after uni. I'd pick up work here and there, bartending mostly, save up a bit of cash, then just move on to the next place. Keeps life interesting, don't it? I was making my way across the Midlands, heading up to Scotland, when my motor started making this horrible grinding noise just outside this tiny village in Cumbria, proper back end of beyond. I limped into the nearest garage, and the bloke there said it'd take at least 3 days to get the parts in. Brilliant. I needed somewhere cheap to stay, so I checked Airbnb. There was bugger all available except this one listing, a room in an old farmhouse about 2 miles outside the village. The photos looked grim, if I'm honest. Dark, dated, but it was only 15 quid a night, so I won't complaining. The host was called Gerald, and his profile picture was this really grainy photo of an old man, must have been in his 70s at least. I sent him a message and he replied within minutes saying I was welcome to stay as long as I needed. I walked there that evening because I had no other way of getting about. The farmhouse was properly isolated, surrounded by empty fields and this thick, dark woodland. The place looked ancient, all crumbling stone and tiny windows. Gerald met me at the door, and straight away something felt off about him. He was tall, really thin, with these sunken eyes that just stared right through you. But he was polite enough, showed me to my room upstairs. It was basic, single bed, wooden chair, no telly, no heating. He told me to make myself comfortable and that he'd bring me up some tea before bed. I thought that was a bit weird, but I just nodded. About 9 o'clock there was a knock on the door. Gerald came in with this chipped mug full of tea. It smelt strange, sort of herbal and bitter, but I didn't want to be rude, so I drank it while he stood there watching me. He asked loads of questions, where I was from, where I was going, whether anyone knew I was here. I told him my mates knew roughly where I was, which was a lie. I hadn't spoken to anyone in days. He smiled at that, this slow, creepy smile, and then he left. I felt dizzy almost immediately, like properly woozy, couldn't focus my eyes. I thought maybe I was just knackered from walking, so I lay down and passed out cold. When I woke up, it was pitch black, and I had no idea what time it was. My phone was dead, and I couldn't find my charger. I felt groggy, confused, like I'd been asleep for days. I stumbled to the window and looked out, still dark. I got back into bed, and that's when I heard it. Gerald's voice, coming through the wall. He was talking softly, almost whispering, but I couldn't make out the words. It sounded like he was having a conversation with someone, but there were no other voices, just his, going on and on. The next night, same thing. Tea at 9, dizzy spell, waking up at what felt like 3 in the morning to the sound of his voice. I started feeling paranoid. Something weren't right. I asked him if I could skip the tea, said I didn't fancy it, but he insisted, said it was a family recipe, helped with sleep. I drank it again because I didn't know what else to do. And again, I woke up in the dark with that horrible fuzzy feeling in my head. Third night, I decided to fake it. I took the tea, pretended to drink it, but I poured most of it into a plant pot by the window when he wasn't looking. I lay down and closed my eyes, but I stayed awake. My heart was absolutely hammering. Around what must have been midnight, I heard footsteps on the stairs, slow, deliberate. They stopped outside my door. I kept my eyes shut, tried to breathe steady, like I was asleep.
The door creaked open. I could feel him standing there, watching me. I wanted to scream, to jump up and run, but I stayed still. Then he spoke, really quietly, almost like he was talking to himself. "You're staying longer this time," he whispered. "They always do when they drink enough." He stood there for what felt like forever, and then he left. I waited until I heard his footsteps go back downstairs, and then I sat up, shaking. I needed to get out. I tried the door, locked from the outside. The window didn't open. I was trapped. I spent the rest of the night trying to stay quiet, trying to think of a plan. Morning came, and Gerald unlocked the door like nothing had happened. Brought me up some breakfast, all smiles. I played along, said I was feeling much better, asked if I could use his phone to ring the garage. He said the phone line was down. Of course it was. I knew I had to find a way out before that night. While he was outside doing something in the yard, I searched the house. Upstairs in a cupboard, I found this old notebook, leather-bound, falling apart. I opened it, and my stomach turned. Pages and pages of names, dates next to them, and nearly all of them were crossed out, thick black lines through them. Some had notes: stayed 4 weeks, never woke up, buried near the oak tree. Right at the bottom of the current page was my name, Marcus. No line through it yet. I heard the front door open. I shoved the notebook back and legged it to my room. That evening, when Gerald brought the tea, I pretended to drink it again, but this time, when he left, I didn't wait. I grabbed the chair, smashed the window with it, and climbed out. Cut my hands to bits on the glass, but I didn't care. I dropped into the yard and ran, just ran across the fields in the dark, didn't look back. I made it to the main road and flagged down a car. The driver thought I was absolutely mental, covered in blood, babbling about being locked in a farmhouse. Police went to the property the next day. They found the notebook. They found other things too, but they wouldn't tell me what. Gerald was gone. They reckon he knew I'd escaped and just vanished. They're still looking for him, and they're still digging up that woodland near the house. I don't use Airbnb anymore.
I'd just gone through a proper messy breakup. The kind where you need to get away from everything and everyone for a bit, you know? My flat felt suffocating, full of memories and his stuff he still hadn't picked up, so I booked this place in the Lake District for a week. Just needed some peace, some time to clear my head. The house looked gorgeous in the photos. Big Victorian place, loads of characters, surrounded by trees. The host was a woman called Margaret, and she had this very formal way of messaging, all proper grammar and full sentences. Made her seem trustworthy, I suppose. I arrived late afternoon, and the place was massive. 3 stories, multiple guest rooms, though Margaret said I was the only one staying that week. She met me at the door, this stern-looking woman, maybe mid-50s, dressed all in black. She gave me a tour of the ground floor, kitchen, sitting room, dining room, and then she stopped at this door tucked under the stairs. Heavy wooden thing with a big iron bolt across it. "That's the basement," she said, not looking at me. "You are not to go near it. The stairs are unsafe and the door must remain locked at all times. Do you understand?" The way she said it was so intense that I just nodded. She handed me my key, showed me to my room upstairs, and then she left. Said she lived in the village and I should ring if I needed anything. The house was beautiful, but it felt odd being there alone. Too quiet. Too big. I made myself dinner, had a bath, tried to relax, but I kept thinking about that basement door. Why was she so adamant I stay away from it? The stairs are unsafe, fair enough, but the way she'd said it felt like there was more to it. First night was fine. I slept reasonably well, all things considered. But the second night, that's when it started. I woke up around 2 a.m. to this banging sound. Loud, rhythmic, like someone hammering on metal. It was coming from below me, from the basement. I sat up, listening, trying to work out what it could be.
Pipes, maybe? Old houses have dodgy plumbing, yeah? But it didn't sound like pipes. It sounded deliberate. 3 bangs, pause. 3 bangs, pause. Over and over. I grabbed my phone and went downstairs. The banging was louder down there, echoing through the hallway. I stood in front of the basement door and my heart was racing. I knew Margaret said not to go near it, but I couldn't just ignore this. What if a pipe had burst or something? I reached out to touch the door and the handle started moving. Not slowly, violently, twisting back and forth, up and down like someone on the other side was desperately trying to get out. I jumped back, absolutely terrified. The banging got faster, more frantic. I pulled out my phone and started recording, hands shaking so badly I could barely hold it steady. I filmed the door handle thrashing about, the bolt rattling, the whole door shuddering in its frame. And it just stopped. Complete silence. I stood there for ages, not moving, barely breathing. Nothing. I went back upstairs, locked myself in my room, and didn't sleep the rest of the night. Morning came, and I checked the video I had recorded. I wanted proof, something to show Margaret, because this was absolutely not normal. But when I played it back, I felt like I was losing my mind. The footage showed the door, the handle moving like I'd seen, but there was something else. In the small window at the top of the basement door, you could just barely see it in the video. There was a face, my face, staring directly at the camera. But I'd been standing in the hallway filming. I wasn't in the basement. That was impossible. I watched it again and again. Same thing. My own reflection. But it wasn't a reflection because there was no glass or mirror to reflect off of. It was me, inside the basement, looking out. And the expression on my face, I can't even describe it properly. It was me, but wrong. The eyes were too wide, the smile too stretched. I packed my stuff immediately. I didn't care about losing the money. I just needed to leave. I tried ringing Margaret, but it went straight to voicemail. I left a message saying there was an emergency and I had to go, and then I drove straight home. I reported the whole thing to Airbnb, sent them the video, told them about the banging, about Margaret's weird rules. They said they'd investigate and get back to me. 2 days later, I got an email. They said they couldn't find any record of the property at the address I'd given them. I checked my booking confirmation and the address was there. I drove into it, I'd stayed there, but according to Airbnb, no such listing existed. I put the address into Google Maps. It came up, but when I clicked on the street view, it was just an empty lot. Overgrown grass, no building, nothing. I talked in the village. I showed people the photos from the Airbnb listing. No one recognized it. No one had ever heard of anyone called Margaret. I still have the video on my phone. I've watched it hundreds of times trying to make sense of it. That face in the window, my face, it's still there every time. Sometimes late at night, I get this horrible feeling that I never actually left that house, that I'm still down in that basement, banging on the door, trying to get out. And the me that's here, living my life, writing this, maybe I'm just the reflection.
We'd been planning this trip for months, yeah? Me, my mate Jamie, and his girlfriend Sophie. Just wanted a lads and lass weekend away from London, somewhere we could properly switch off. Jamie found this cabin listing in Wales, proper secluded, surrounded by forest. Look, absolutely mint in the photos. Wood burner, hot tub, the works. Host was called David, seemed sound in the messages, very accommodating. We booked it straight away. The drive up was brilliant, taking the mick out of each other, blasting tunes, stopped at every service station for munchies. We arrived Friday evening and the place was even better than the photos. Proper cosy, had that whole rustic vibe going on. David had left us a welcome note saying to enjoy ourselves and that he wouldn't disturb us unless we needed anything. Perfect. We cracked open some beers, got the fire going,
and just had a laugh like old times. Saturday, we spent the day hiking, came back absolutely knackered and starving. Sophie went for a shower first while me and Jamie sorted dinner. She was in there for ages, and when she came out, her face was pure white. She was holding something in her hand, this tiny black device with a little blinking red light on it. She said, "I found this under the sink. It was stuck to the pipe with tape." Jamie took it from her, turned it over. We all knew what it was straight away. A camera. A fucking camera in the bathroom. I felt sick. Sophie looked like she was going to cry. Jamie lost it, started shouting, saying we needed to search the whole place. And we did. We pulled apart that cabin. Found another one inside the air vent in the bedroom, pointed right at the bed. One behind a picture frame in the living room. One inside the smoke detector in the kitchen. 4 cameras. 4 that we found anyway. God knows how many more were hidden. Sophie was in beds. She'd been in that bathroom, in that bedroom, getting changed, showering, everything. We all had. I felt violated, absolutely disgusted. Jamie tried to message David through the Airbnb app, sent him about 5 messages calling him every name under the sun, demanding an explanation, but the messages wouldn't deliver. It just said, "User unavailable." We tried ringing the number he'd given us, disconnected. It was like he'd just vanished. We grabbed all our stuff and the cameras we'd found and got out of there. Drove to the nearest police station, which was about 40 minutes away, and reported it. The officers took statements, took the cameras as evidence, said they'd go to the property and investigate. We gave them the Airbnb listing, all the details we had. They said they'd be in touch. We heard nothing for weeks. I kept ringing them, asking for updates. Eventually, some detective rang me back and said they'd been to the cabin, but found no additional surveillance equipment, and they couldn't locate anyone named David matching the profile. The listing had been taken down from Airbnb, but they had no way of tracking the actual owner because all the details were fake. Fake name, fake payment information, everything routed through VPNs and burner accounts. Dead end. Sophie was a mess after that. She couldn't sleep, kept having panic attacks, thinking about who'd been watching us, what they'd seen, where those videos might be. We all felt it, but it hit her hardest. Then, about 2 weeks after we'd reported it, Jamie rang me at work, absolutely frantic. He told me to get on my laptop and sent me a link. I opened it and my stomach just dropped. It was some dodgy forum, the kind you'd never stumble across unless you were specifically looking for it. Anonymous users, encrypted, all that. And there was a thread titled Cabin Weekend Wales 2025. I clicked it and there were clips, multiple clips, of us in the cabin. Sophie in the bathroom, me and Jamie getting changed in the bedroom, all of us in the living room just chatting, having drinks, completely unaware. The videos had been edited together, zoomed in on certain bits, and there were comments underneath, dozens of them. People rating us, making vile suggestions, asking for more content. I nearly threw up. Jamie had already reported it to the police, but they said these forums are nearly impossible to shut down, and even if they did, the content would just get re-uploaded somewhere else. We tried to get the videos taken down, but they kept popping up on different sites. Sophie deleted all her social media, stopped going out, barely left her flat. It destroyed her. The worst part, a few weeks later, out of morbid curiosity, I searched for the cabin listing again, and it was back up. Same photos, different host name, but definitely the same place. And it had reviews, recent ones, all 5 stars. People saying what a lovely stay they'd had, how private and peaceful it was. I reported it to Airbnb again, sent them everything, the police report, the forum links, everything. They said they'd investigate, but the listing stayed up. I check it every few weeks and it's still there. New reviews keep appearing, different people, different dates, and I think about them, whoever they are, staying in that cabin, thinking they're having a nice weekend away. No idea they're being watched, no idea their footage is probably already out there somewhere, being passed around by creeps on the internet. We never found out who David really was. The police said it's likely not even one person, probably a whole network of people running these fake listings, collecting footage, selling it. They said we weren't the first to report something like this, and we wouldn't be the last. I don't use Airbnb anymore. None of us do. And whenever I stay anywhere now, I search every room, check every smoke detector, every vent, every socket. I cover cameras on my laptop and phone. Sophie moved back in with her parents. Last I heard, she still won't talk about it. Sometimes I wonder how many other listings out there are the same. How many people are being watched right now, completely oblivious. It makes you paranoid, makes you not trust anything. That's what gets me the most. We did everything right. We checked the reviews, we messaged the host. We thought we were being careful, but it didn't matter. We were just content to them. Just another video to upload. And somewhere out there, they're still watching.